What if the people you trusted most were secretly plotting to destroy you? And what if your greatest betrayal led to a legacy that changed the world? Keep watching to discover the incredible story of Ethan Kross. Ethan Kross had always been a man in control. As the CEO of Kross Technologies, a towering figure in the tech industry, he was known for his sharp mind and relentless drive. But all of that changed in an instant. The world thought Ethan was in a coma. The news had spread quickly: an accident aboard his private jet, a catastrophic failure that sent the aircraft plummeting. Emergency responders had pulled him from the wreckage, his body battered, but miraculously alive. For the next 18 days, he lay in the sterile, pristine confines of the private clinic's presidential suite, unmoving, silent. But Ethan wasn't unconscious. 3 days after the crash, Ethan had opened his eyes, just a sliver. Panic washed over him, but his instincts kicked in. He kept his breathing steady, his body motionless, his mind racing. He knew something was wrong. The voices outside his room told him everything. "You need to be patient, Vanessa," a familiar voice murmured from beyond the glass door. "Nathan, his half-brother. The board is growing restless. We can't wait forever." "And I won't," Vanessa's voice cut in, sharp and cold. "We need to secure control of Kross Technologies now. Ethan would have wanted it. But his lawyer, Angela Harper, is demanding access to his medical records. If she keeps pushing—" "She won't be a problem for long," Nathan replied, his tone icy. "I've already arranged a meeting with the ethics committee at the Bar Association. Soon, she'll be too busy fighting for her own reputation." Ethan's heart raced beneath the still surface of his body. Angela, his most trusted advisor, was being targeted. Vanessa, his own wife, and Nathan, his brother, were conspiring against him. They thought he was helpless. But they were wrong. He needed time. Time to understand the full scope of their betrayal, to discover who else was involved. He couldn't reveal. He was awake. Not yet. But even as he lay there, his mind began to work, calculating, planning. The quiet beeping of the heart monitor was his only companion, a constant reminder of the fragile line he walked. He had to keep up the charade, to maintain the image of a man on the brink of death, even as he plotted his return. Ethan knew that somewhere in the shadows of his empire, a greater conspiracy was at play. But for now, his survival depended on silence. And so, he listened, waiting for the right moment to strike. Ethan remained perfectly still, every muscle under his control, but his mind raced. Each day that passed brought new revelations. Nathan and Vanessa had no idea he was listening, nor did they care. They spoke freely just outside his door, their voices muffled but clear enough for him to understand. "The board is anxious," Vanessa complained, her voice sharp. "They need assurance, and as long as Ethan is in that bed, we're stuck." "Don't worry, sister." Nathan's voice was smooth, almost mocking. "In a few days, they'll have no choice but to invoke the incapacitation clause. Kross Technologies will be ours." Ethan felt a pang of anger, but controlled his breathing. The incapacitation clause, a legal measure that would strip him of his authority if he was declared permanently incapacitated. A clause he himself had approved, never imagining it would become a weapon against him. And it wasn't just the company. Ethan listened as they discussed Angela Harper, his trusted lawyer. Nathan's plan to have her discredited with false ethics violations was already in motion. They would eliminate anyone loyal to Ethan, isolating him completely. But the betrayal didn't end there. "What about the Aurora project?" Vanessa asked, a hint of greed in her voice. "You think the board will support it once we're in control?" "Of course not. Nathan chuckled. Sustainable energy for low-income communities? It's a waste of money. We'll reallocate the funds. Ethan's heart clenched. The Aurora project was his dream, a revolutionary energy solution designed to bring affordable power to underserved communities. For Nathan and Vanessa, it was just another asset to exploit. Ethan had heard enough. His enemies weren't just trying to take his company, they were trying to erase his legacy. He needed a way to fight back. But for now, he had to wait, to listen, and to plan. His survival depended on it. The sterile stillness of the clinic was broken by the soft rustle of fabric and the faint scent of lavender. Ethan's senses were sharper now. Every sound, every whisper beyond his door was a clue. But it was the new presence beside his bed that drew his attention. "Good evening, Mr. Cross." A calm, clear voice greeted him. "I'm Grace Turner, your new night nurse." Ethan maintained his perfect stillness. Grace moved around the room with a quiet confidence, checking his monitors, adjusting his IV, making notes in his file. But there was something different about her. She wasn't like the others. Most staff spoke to him with that exaggerated, almost condescending sweetness reserved for the comatose. But Grace was direct, professional, and then she did something unexpected. She sighed, sat down beside his bed, and whispered, "I don't know if you can hear me, but something isn't right here. I was transferred to this shift 3 days ago, and the sedation levels in your file, they're far too high for your condition." Ethan's heart raced. Did she know? "I'm not just a nurse," she continued, her voice now a low whisper. "I'm a specialist in forensic neurology. And I can tell you with certainty, someone is deliberately keeping you sedated." Grace's revelation was like a lifeline. Someone knew, someone saw the truth. She leaned closer. "I will help you, but you must trust me." Trust. A word Ethan hadn't believed in for days. But here it was, offered by a stranger. The game had just changed. For the first time in days, Ethan felt a glimmer of hope. Grace Turner wasn't just another nurse. She was someone who saw the truth, someone who sensed the darkness beneath the polished surface of the clinic. But knowing wasn't enough. They needed a way to communicate. That night, as Grace adjusted the monitors and ensured the door was firmly shut, Ethan decided to take a risk. With every ounce of strength, he focused on his right index finger. A tiny twitch, just once. Grace's eyes widened. "Mr. Cross?" she whispered, leaning closer. Another twitch. You can hear me?" Ethan managed another twitch. One for yes, he thought. She understood. Her voice lowered even further. "We need a system. 1 twitch for yes, 2 for no. Can you manage that?" 1 deliberate twitch confirmed it, and so their silent language began. Each night, Grace would return, closing the blinds, making sure no one was watching, and Ethan would answer her questions, sometimes with the simplest of movements. A twitch for yes, 2 for no. Slowly, she began to uncover his story. "Did someone do this to you?" 1 twitch. "Was it someone close to you?" 1 twitch. "Was it Vanessa?" 1 twitch. A shadow crossed Grace's face. "And Nathan?" Another twitch. Grace's determination hardened. "I'll protect you," she whispered, her hand gently resting on his. "But we need more. We need a way for you to talk." The next night, Grace returned with a deck of cards, each bearing a letter of the alphabet. "We'll spell it out," she whispered. "I'll hold up each letter. You twitch when it's the right one." It was slow, agonizingly slow, but word by word, letter by letter, Ethan spelled out his first message, SABOTAGE. Grace's heart raced. They tried to kill you? One twitch. And so, night after night, they built a language. Grace would spell out the alphabet, and Ethan would guide her. His words were fragmented but powerful. Plane, crash, Nathan, Vanessa, Aurora. Aurora? Grace leaned closer. What is Aurora? Ethan took his time, spelling out carefully. Energy, project, help, pour. Grace's eyes filled with understanding. They want to stop it. That's why they tried to get rid of you. But it wasn't just a plan to take his company. It was a plan to bury his legacy, to destroy the one thing he had built to make a difference in the world. Grace became his voice. She asked questions, uncovered details, piecing together the conspiracy. Ethan felt a growing sense of strength, even in his immobile state. "We need evidence," Grace whispered one night. "Something undeniable." Ethan twitched once, a subtle, fierce confirmation, and from that moment, they were no longer just patient and nurse. They were a team. Through the slow, patient process of letter-by-letter communication, Ethan revealed more to Grace each night. And one word kept appearing, a word that seemed to hold the key to everything. Aurora. "Tell me about Aurora," Grace whispered one night, her fingers lightly resting on the edge of his bed. "What is it?" Ethan's finger twitched, one for yes, two for no. And so, she began. "Is it a project?" One twitch. "Energy?" Another twitch. Piece by piece, Grace learned the truth. Aurora was Ethan's dream, a groundbreaking renewable energy project designed to provide affordable electricity to low-income communities. But it was more than just a charity initiative. It was a technological revolution, a system capable of harnessing sustainable power at a fraction of the cost. "And they want to stop it?" Grace asked, her voice tight. One twitch. "Nathan and Vanessa?" Another twitch. Ethan's breathing grew sharper, the effort of communication exhausting but necessary. "They don't just want your company," Grace whispered. "They want to destroy everything you've built, your legacy." Ethan's heart raced, the truth of it, like a cold knife. Aurora was his way of giving back, of using his influence and wealth to change lives. But to his brother Nathan and his wife Vanessa, it was just another threat. A threat to their control, their profits, their greed. "They must have a plan," Grace murmured, thinking aloud. "They wouldn't just try to kill you for nothing." Letter by letter, Ethan spelled out another name. Dr. Spencer White. "He's involved?" Grace asked, and a single twitch confirmed it. Dr. Spencer White was the man responsible for maintaining Ethan's care, a trusted physician within the clinic. But in reality, he was nothing more than a pawn, bribed and manipulated by Nathan and Vanessa to keep Ethan sedated. Grace's jaw tightened. "We need to expose him, but we need proof." Another twitch. "Yes. They'll want to shut down Aurora," Grace whispered, her mind racing. "And they'll need the board's approval for that." Ethan's twitch confirmed her fear. "They'll lie. They'll manipulate the board. Make them think Aurora is a failed project." Ethan twitched again. The desperation in his silent communication was clear. They would destroy everything he had fought for, everything he had built. But they weren't just fighting for a company. They were fighting for something much greater. Aurora wasn't just a project. It was a promise. A promise Ethan had made to himself, to his community, to the countless lives that would benefit from affordable, clean energy. Grace leaned closer. "We're going to stop them. I promise." But she knew it wouldn't be easy. They were up against powerful enemies, people willing to kill to keep their control. As Grace quietly left his room that night, a new determination settled within her. She would protect Ethan's legacy. She would protect Aurora, and she would expose the truth. Grace Turner knew that finding the truth wouldn't be enough. She needed evidence, solid, undeniable proof of what Nathan and Vanessa were doing. And she would need to be careful. They were powerful, and they had already proven they were willing to go to any lengths to get what they wanted. Her first step was to gather information. Each night, as she spent time with Ethan, she whispered updates, careful to maintain the facade of routine care. But by day, she was something else entirely. Grace became a ghost. She slipped through the clinic's hallways with the quiet confidence of someone who knew how to avoid attention. She accessed the staff's internal network, digging through patient records, medication logs, and surveillance footage. And there, in the logs, she found her first clue. The sedation levels administered to Ethan were far beyond what was necessary for his condition. More than that, the adjustments had been made directly by Dr. Spencer White, at the request of Nathan Cross. But it wasn't enough. She needed more. Grace began following Dr. White, keeping her distance, watching his movements. He was careful, always checking over his shoulder, but she was patient. And one evening, she saw it, Dr. White, meeting with Nathan in the hospital parking lot, their voices low but tense. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but she recorded the interaction on her phone. It was something, but it still wasn't enough. Her search expanded. Grace reached out to a trusted friend from her past, Dr. Evelyn Chen, a specialist in forensic neurology. Under the guise of a casual conversation, she explained Ethan's situation without revealing his identity. If someone were being deliberately kept in a coma with high levels of sedation, what would you look for? Grace asked. The medication records, Dr. Chen replied without hesitation. And the source, whoever authorized the dosage. Grace returned to the clinic, her focus sharper. She accessed Dr. White's personal digital logs, hidden within the staff's private server, and there it was, direct instructions from Nathan authorizing the continued sedation of Ethan Cross. But there was more. A series of transactions linked to an offshore account, payments made to Dr. White, and one particularly large transfer just days before Ethan's accident. Her heart pounded. This was it. Proof of bribery. Proof of conspiracy. But she needed a way to make it undeniable, a way to ensure it couldn't be dismissed. Returning to Ethan's room that night, she shared her findings, letter by letter, as he confirmed each piece with a steady twitch of his finger. "We need a witness," she whispered. "Someone they won't expect." Ethan's finger twitched. "Yes," Grace's mind raced. "What about Angela Harper? Your lawyer?" Another twitch, but Angela was under attack. Nathan and Vanessa had already begun a smear campaign against her, using falsified documents and anonymous complaints to the ethics committee. "We have to warn her," Grace whispered. The next night, she sent an anonymous message to Angela's office, warning her of the false charges. But even that wasn't enough. They needed a way to turn the tide. "I'll find a way," Grace promised, gripping Ethan's hand. "We'll make them pay." And in Ethan's silent stillness, he felt a spark of hope. They weren't just hiding anymore. They were fighting back. Grace Turner knew she couldn't do it alone. The deeper she dug, the more dangerous it became. Nathan and Vanessa were powerful, and Dr. Spencer White had the influence to manipulate medical records at will. But Grace had a plan. She needed an ally, someone with expertise, someone she could trust, and she knew exactly who to call. Late one night, using a secure phone, she reached out to Dr. Evelyn Chen, an old friend and a respected specialist in forensic neurology. Evelyn was brilliant, meticulous, and most importantly, unafraid to challenge authority. "Evelyn, I need your help," Grace whispered, careful to keep her voice low. "It's about a patient, a man being kept in a coma, against his will." Evelyn's voice was steady. "Are you sure?" "I have proof," Grace replied, "but I need someone who can verify it. Someone who can document everything without alerting the clinic." "Where are you?" Evelyn asked. "St. Martin's private clinic, presidential suite." There was a pause. "Grace, do you realize how risky this is?" "I do. But if we don't do something, they will kill him." The next night, Evelyn arrived under the guise of a visiting specialist. She wore a crisp white coat, her demeanor calm and authoritative. No one questioned her presence. Grace guided her to Ethan's room, making sure no one was watching. "This is Ethan Cross," Grace whispered. "They're keeping him sedated." Evelyn's sharp eyes scanned the monitors, the medication logs. She pulled a small flashlight from her pocket and checked Ethan's pupils. Her frown deepened. "These levels are dangerous," Evelyn whispered. "No one with his condition should be on such heavy sedation. This is criminal." Ethan's finger twitched, a silent confirmation. Evelyn turned to Grace. "We need a baseline neurological assessment, but if we do it here, they'll know." "What do you suggest?" Grace asked. "We conduct the tests, but off the record. I have portable equipment in my car. I'll bring it in after hours." The next night, under the cover of darkness, Evelyn returned with her equipment. Grace stood guard at the door while Evelyn carefully assessed Ethan's reflexes, his brain activity, and his response to stimuli. "His responses are clear," Evelyn whispered, her voice laced with shock. "He's conscious. More than that, he's aware. They're deliberately keeping him incapacitated." Evelyn packed up her equipment, her face serious. "We can't just take this to the administration. Dr. Spencer White is part of this. If they know we're onto them, they'll accelerate their plan." "Then we gather more evidence," Grace whispered. "Enough to bring them down." Evelyn nodded. "We'll need a full medical review. We'll document everything, medication levels, false reports, any irregularities in his treatment. But we must be discreet." Over the next few nights, Grace and Evelyn became a team. Evelyn provided her medical expertise, while Grace continued her quiet investigation, watching Nathan and Dr. White from the shadows. Their secret partnership grew stronger, but so did the danger. Dr. White began asking questions about Grace's shifts. Nathan's visits became more frequent, his conversations with Vanessa more urgent. But Grace and Evelyn remained careful, methodical. Every piece of evidence they collected was hidden, encrypted, and backed up. And every night, Grace shared their progress with Ethan, who confirmed their findings with his silent signals. "We're getting closer," Grace whispered one night, her voice steady. "Soon, they won't be able to hide." Evelyn leaned closer to Ethan, her voice firm. "Hold on, Mr. Cross. We're going to get you out of this." Grace and Evelyn worked in quiet determination, their secret alliance growing stronger with each passing day. But as they gathered evidence, Nathan and Vanessa grew more desperate. Their plan was in motion, but they needed to ensure Ethan's silence remained permanent. Nathan's paranoia became obvious. He visited the clinic more frequently, demanding updates from Dr. Spencer White, his tone sharp and demanding. Is he still stable? Are there any changes? None, Mr. Cross, Dr. White lied, his voice tense. He remains unresponsive. But beneath his calm demeanor, Dr. White was panicking. He had noticed Grace's quiet confidence, her frequent visits to Ethan's room, and he didn't like it. Watch the nurse, Nathan ordered one evening. If she's asking questions, we'll replace her. But Grace was careful. Her routine never changed. She was just a nurse, tending to a patient. No one saw the careful way she communicated with Ethan, the way she and Evelyn documented every piece of evidence. And then, a breakthrough. Evelyn, reviewing the clinic's internal records, discovered something chilling, a series of emails between Dr. White and Nathan, discussing not just Ethan's sedation, but a plan to declare him legally incapacitated. If we present the final report, the board will have no choice, Nathan had written. He will be declared permanently incompetent, and control will transfer to me. Grace's hands trembled as she read the message. They want to take everything from him. But it wasn't just about the company. Nathan and Vanessa were planning to dismantle the Aurora project. They had already begun discussions with alternative investors, redirecting funds meant for sustainable energy into high-profit, unethical ventures. They're not just stealing his company, Evelyn whispered. They're destroying his legacy. That night, as Grace shared the news with Ethan, his finger twitched furiously. His rage was palpable, even in his silence. We have to stop them, Grace whispered. But we need more. We need to force them into the open. Evelyn nodded. If they think they've won, they'll reveal everything. And so, they set a trap. The next morning, Grace confronted Dr. White subtly, mentioning that she had noticed irregularities in Ethan's sedation levels. Is everything in his file accurate? She asked innocently. Dr. White's face paled. Of course, why do you ask? Just making sure, Grace replied, her tone light. But beneath her calm exterior, her heart raced. Dr. White reported to Nathan immediately. The nurse is asking questions. Then deal with her, Nathan snapped. If she becomes a problem, I can't just fire her without cause. Then make one. But Grace was ready. She had anticipated their move. And as Dr. White quietly tried to alter the medical records to hide his involvement, Evelyn was one step ahead, accessing the server remotely and preserving the original files. The final piece fell into place when Grace managed to discreetly record a conversation between Nathan and Vanessa in the clinic hallway. Once he's declared incapacitated, we're in control, Nathan whispered, his voice sharp. Aurora will be gone, and so will he. Grace's hands tightened around her phone. Got you, she whispered. That night, she and Evelyn reviewed everything they had. Emails, transaction records, the altered medical files, the recorded conversation. This is it, Evelyn whispered. We have enough to expose them. But they knew they couldn't go to the clinic administration. Dr. White was too deeply involved. They needed a higher authority, someone they could trust. Grace looked at Ethan, his steady gaze watching them. Ethan, she whispered, we're going to bring them down. His finger twitched. Yes, and for the first time, Grace saw a flicker of determination in his eyes. Grace knew they couldn't fight this battle alone. With every piece of evidence she and Evelyn uncovered, the danger grew. But there was one person who could help them, Angela Harper, Ethan's trusted lawyer, but Angela was in danger too. Nathan and Vanessa had already begun a smear campaign against her, falsifying documents and accusing her of unethical conduct. If they succeeded, she would be disbarred, leaving Ethan without his most loyal ally. "We need to warn her," Grace whispered to Ethan that night, his finger twitching once. Yes, but how could they reach her without exposing themselves? Grace thought for hours, pacing the hallway, her mind racing. And then it came to her, a secure, anonymous message. But it had to be direct. The next day, Grace visited an internet cafe far from the clinic. Using a secure, untraceable email, she sent a message to Angela's private account. "Angela Harper, you are being targeted. They are fabricating evidence against you. Nathan Cross and Vanessa are behind it. Do not trust anyone at the firm. Seek help immediately." She watched the screen, her fingers trembling, before hitting send. It was a risk, but Angela needed to know. Hours later, back at the clinic, Grace whispered the update to Ethan. His finger twitched again, a faint but determined response. They had done what they could for now. But that night, as Grace adjusted Ethan's monitors, her phone vibrated. A new message from Angela. "Who are you? How do you know this?" Grace's heart raced. She couldn't reveal herself, but Angela needed proof. And Grace had it. "Check the Bar Association records. The complaint against you was filed by Nathan's associate. They are planning to escalate it. Look for the financial transfers linked to Dr. Spencer White." Angela's reply came minutes later. "I see it. I will fight this." Grace breathed a sigh of relief. Angela was prepared, but this was only the beginning. They needed Angela not just to defend herself, but to become a weapon against Nathan and Vanessa. The next morning, Grace shared the news with Evelyn. "Angela knows. She's fighting back." "Good," Evelyn nodded. "But they won't stop. They're too close to their goal." And she was right. Nathan's paranoia grew. He increased his visits to the clinic, checking on Ethan's condition, demanding updates from Dr. White. "If that nurse is a problem, remove her," Nathan snapped. "I won't risk this." But Dr. White hesitated. "She hasn't done anything suspicious." "Then make something up." Nathan's voice was sharp, desperate. "We can't afford mistakes." Grace and Evelyn watched from a distance, their resolve only growing stronger. That evening, Grace shared another letter-by-letter message with Ethan. "Angela is ready. But we need a plan." Ethan's finger twitched once. "Yes. A way to expose them, publicly." Another twitch. But it wouldn't be easy. Nathan and Vanessa were powerful, ruthless. They controlled the narrative. They controlled the company. "Unless we force them to show their hand," Grace whispered, a plan forming in her mind. "We let them think they've won." Evelyn leaned closer. "A trap?" Grace nodded. "But a very public one." The plan was simple but risky. Grace, Evelyn, and Angela knew they couldn't just expose Nathan and Vanessa quietly. Their power and connections would allow them to silence the truth. They needed a public spectacle, something they couldn't control. Angela arranged a press conference at Cross Technologies under the pretense of discussing the Aurora project. Invitations were sent to the media, investors, and even the board members. The room would be filled with people, witnesses. "We need to make them feel safe," Evelyn whispered. "They have to believe they've won." Grace nodded. "And then we let them expose themselves." Ethan's silent approval was all the encouragement they needed, but getting him to the press conference was another challenge. He was still weak, but his determination was unshakable. On the morning of the event, Angela, acting as Ethan's legal representative, addressed the crowd. Today, we are proud to share an update on the Aurora Project, a groundbreaking initiative led by Mr. Ethan Cross. Nathan and Vanessa stood at the front, their expressions calm, but their eyes watchful. Nathan's smile widened as he saw the crowd. He believed he was about to cement his control over the company, but in the hallway, hidden from view, Grace and Evelyn guided Ethan, now in a wheelchair, his face pale but focused. Cameras were rolling, the stage set. Angela continued, her voice steady. Unfortunately, Mr. Cross is unable to attend due to health concerns. Nathan stepped forward, his voice smooth. Yes, Ethan's condition has been severe, but in his absence, we have ensured the company's stability. The Aurora Project will continue, though we will be making adjustments to better serve our shareholders. His words were met with polite applause, but then the door at the back of the room swung open. A gasp spread through the room as Ethan Cross, frail but defiant, was wheeled in. Silence fell. Cameras flashed. Nathan's face drained of color. Ethan? Vanessa's voice trembled. Ethan's voice was weak but clear. I may be weak, Vanessa, but I'm not dead. Angela stepped forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe Mr. Cross has something important to share. Grace moved to the side, revealing Evelyn with a tablet. A video played on the massive screen behind them, recordings of Nathan and Vanessa conspiring, the altered medical files, the payments to Dr. White. Nathan lunged forward. This is fake. Lies. Security! Remove these people! Vanessa screamed, but the security guard stood still, confused. No! Ethan's voice was stronger now. They stay. Angela stepped forward again. These are the real records. The proof of your conspiracy to incapacitate Mr. Cross, seize control of Cross Technologies, and destroy the Aurora Project. Vanessa's face twisted with panic. They're manipulating you, Ethan. But Ethan's gaze was cold. No. You manipulated me. You betrayed me. The board members were stunned, murmurs rippling through the room. The press captured every moment. Nathan's desperation broke. He lunged toward Ethan, but security intercepted him. This isn't over. You'll regret this. No, Nathan. Ethan's voice was a whisper now, but it carried. You will. As the guards led Nathan and Vanessa away, Angela turned to the cameras. This is not just a story of corporate greed. It is a story of resilience, of the truth fighting its way into the light. And in his wheelchair, Ethan allowed himself a small smile. He had won. But more importantly, his legacy, Aurora, was safe. The aftermath of the press conference was explosive. News channels replayed the footage of Ethan's dramatic return, the exposed conspiracy, and the desperate faces of Nathan and Vanessa. The headlines were brutal. Family betrayal at Cross Technologies and Billionaire's miraculous comeback unmasks conspiracy. Nathan and Vanessa were arrested, charged with conspiracy, attempted murder, and corporate fraud. Dr. Spencer White was stripped of his medical license and taken into custody for his role in the cover-up. The once powerful trio found themselves facing the full weight of the law, but the fallout didn't stop there. Cross Technologies Board launched an internal investigation, uncovering more of Nathan's schemes. Several senior executives were dismissed, their connections to the conspiracy revealed. Aurora, once a hidden project, was now the company's flagship initiative, with support pouring in from across the industry. Ethan's return to leadership was celebrated. Investors, initially nervous, rallied behind him. Shares of Cross Technologies surged, and the Aurora project was fast-tracked for nationwide implementation. In the courtroom, Nathan and Vanessa tried to defend themselves. Nathan claimed it was a misunderstanding, that he had acted in the company's best interests. Vanessa insisted she had been manipulated by Nathan, but the evidence was overwhelming. Angela Harper, now fully reinstated, represented Ethan personally. Her calm, precise questioning dismantled Nathan's defense. "Did you or did you not authorize the alteration of medical records, Mr. Cross?" Nathan's composure shattered. I was trying to protect the company." "By attempting to kill your brother?" Angela's voice was sharp. The courtroom was silent. Vanessa's betrayal cut even deeper. Emails revealed her secret communications with competing firms, planning to sell Aurora's technology for personal profit. Her plea for leniency fell on deaf ears. In the end, the judge's verdict was clear. Nathan Cross was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Vanessa received 15 years. Dr. Spencer White, 10 years. As the gavel fell, Ethan watched them, his face expressionless. But inside, a storm of emotions raged: betrayal, anger, and a deep, aching sadness. Grace stood beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder. "It's over," she whispered. "Not yet," Ethan replied, his voice steady. "But we're on the right path." Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions. Ethan ignored them, guiding Grace and Angela away from the chaos. Evelyn joined them, her calm smile a quiet reassurance. "The Aurora project will continue," Ethan announced that evening at a press conference. "Not just as a technological breakthrough, but as a promise to use our power responsibly, to build a better world." And for the first time in months, Ethan Cross felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The darkness had passed, but his journey was far from over. The Aurora project was no longer a secret. It was a symbol. News of the conspiracy had transformed the initiative from a hidden venture into a public movement. Across the country, people saw it as a beacon of hope, a technology designed not for profit, but for progress. Ethan Cross wasted no time. His first act as CEO, now fully reinstated, was to expand the Aurora project beyond its original scope. What had started as a pilot initiative became a nationwide rollout. Schools in low-income neighborhoods were the first to benefit, their energy costs reduced by 70%. Community centers, public libraries, and shelters followed. "This is just the beginning," Ethan declared at the official relaunch event. His voice, still recovering but filled with determination, echoed through the hall. "Aurora isn't just about energy. It's about opportunity. It's about giving back." Grace stood by his side, now officially recognized as the project's operations manager. Dr. Evelyn Chen was appointed head of medical ethics, tasked with ensuring that Cross Technologies upheld its new commitment to transparency and accountability. But Ethan's vision didn't stop there. He announced a partnership with several universities, offering scholarships to underprivileged students interested in renewable energy research. The Aurora Fellowship, he called it. The response was overwhelming. Applications poured in. Donors, impressed by Ethan's resolve, pledged millions to the project. News networks ran features on the Aurora project's impact, interviewing families whose lives were changed by the affordable energy it provided. But not everyone was pleased. The traditional energy sector viewed Aurora as a threat. Lobbyists whispered in the halls of Congress, arguing that such disruptive technology would destabilize the market. But Ethan was ready. "Let them try," he told Grace one evening. "We won't just survive their attacks. We'll outshine them." And they did. As Aurora expanded, Ethan launched a media campaign highlighting the real stories of those it helped. Mothers who could afford groceries instead of sky-high electric bills. Schools that reinvested their savings into better facilities. Veterans who found work maintaining the solar networks. Grace and Evelyn worked tirelessly, ensuring the project ran smoothly. Angela Harper continued as Ethan's legal guardian angel, protecting Aurora from the inevitable legal challenges. But the most emotional moment came at a local elementary school where the first Aurora-powered lights were switched on. Children cheered, their faces lit with wonder. "Look, Mom, it's so bright." Ethan stood quietly at the back, a rare tear in his eye. Grace stepped beside him, her smile warm. "You did this." "No," Ethan whispered. "We did this." That night, as they walked away from the celebration, Ethan turned to Grace. "Aurora was just an idea. But you gave it life." Grace laughed softly. "I just followed your light." The world had tried to bury Ethan Cross, but from the darkness, he had risen, not just as a survivor, but as a force for change. Years passed, but the legacy of Ethan Cross continued to grow. The Aurora Project became a global initiative, bringing affordable, sustainable energy to communities around the world. Schools, hospitals, and community centers across 5 continents now relied on Aurora's technology. Ethan's leadership style changed too. No longer driven by profit alone, he prioritized transparency, ethics, and social responsibility. Cross Technologies became a model for other corporations, proving that success didn't have to come at the cost of integrity. But Ethan's greatest impact wasn't just in technology, it was in people. Grace Turner, who had once been just a nurse fighting for truth, now led the global Aurora Initiative, coordinating projects from Latin America to Southeast Asia. Dr. Evelyn Chen became a renowned advocate for medical ethics, her name synonymous with integrity in healthcare. Angela Harper rose to prominence as a leading corporate lawyer, using her expertise to defend social initiatives and protect whistleblowers. Ethan's influence extended even further. The Aurora Fellowship, a scholarship program for underprivileged students in technology and engineering, produced a new generation of innovators, young people who saw in Ethan's story a model of resilience and purpose. But Ethan never sought recognition. He lived simply, spending his days mentoring young entrepreneurs, visiting Aurora project sites, and quietly funding new social initiatives. "We don't change the world from the top," he often told Grace. "We change it from the ground up." In his final years, Ethan's health declined, but his mind remained sharp. On his 75th birthday, he attended a ceremony at a school that bore his name, a school powered entirely by Aurora technology. Children cheered as he spoke, his voice weak, but his spirit unbroken. "Never let anyone tell you that you can't make a difference," he told them. "Every act of kindness, every choice to do what's right, it all matters." Ethan Cross passed away peacefully 3 months later, surrounded by friends and those he had inspired. But his legacy lived on. Aurora continued to expand, Grace and Evelyn leading it with the same passion Ethan had instilled in them. Angela became a powerful advocate for ethical corporate practices, and every year, on the anniversary of his passing, a small ceremony was held at the first Aurora-powered school. Children would gather, and Grace would tell them the story of a man who lost everything, only to find his true purpose in giving back. Ethan Cross didn't just change the world, she would say. He showed us how to change ourselves. In the story of Ethan Cross, a profound message emerges. True strength is not found in power or wealth, but in how we use it to create positive change. Ethan began as a powerful tech billionaire, betrayed by those closest to him. But when stripped of his control, he discovered a greater purpose, using his influence to uplift communities and empower those who had been forgotten. Ethan's journey teaches us that resilience is more than just surviving hardship. It is about transforming adversity into an opportunity for growth. It reminds us that integrity is the foundation of true success and that giving back can be the most impactful legacy one can leave behind. For older audiences who may have seen their share of life's challenges, Ethan's story is a reminder that it is never too late to redefine one's purpose. No matter how much we have accomplished, our greatest achievements are the lives we touch, the values we stand for, and the kindness we show when no one is watching.